Welcome to Global Perspectives. My name is Kingsley Antwi-Boasiako. Today we're going to be talking about the recent shooting incident at the Westgate shopping mall in Nairobi, Kenya, a very upscale shopping center. And with me in the studio to do the discussion, Kaka Patro, Stacy Sharifa, and Peter Mwangi, all from Kenya. Kaka Patro and Peter Mwangi are PhD students, and Miss Stacy Sharifa is a pre-med student here at OU. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to be starting with you, Stacy, because we usually say ladies first. Do you mind telling us Kenya as you know it? You know, tell us the state of Kenya before the shooting incident. What did you know about it?
Okay, yeah. Kenya before the shooting incident, I know Kenya as a home I can always, go back to, and I believe it's a place of peace and, somewhere where somebody can go and feel comfortable walking outside or letting somebody go, let's say, to a mall. So Kenya to me is a beautiful, beautiful country. And I just, people in Kenya are so loving and so, sharing and everything. So I really love Kenya as a place. Yeah. And I was shocked to hear whatever happened on that fateful Saturday.
Yeah. Talking about shocked, I'm going to come to you, Kaka. How did you receive the news when you heard that, gunmen from Al-Shabaab, a terrorist group in Somalia, had just stormed the shopping mall and started shooting people? How did you take the news?
Being a digital generation guy, the first place I got this news was from digital news. We have a lot of websites in Kenya, like mostly news vendors from the Jackal News. Do we call them the Jackal News? That's actually where I got the first news, and then Twitter. I follow a lot of Twitter messages, and then of course the word of mouth. It was just a coincidence that I called my sister who works in Westland to find out if she was there, because she works close to that place. She works in the nearest mall from Westgate at Sarit. So lucky enough, she wasn't there, and it was unfortunate that the incident happened.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. Peter,
yep.
Currently the death toll stands at 69 people dead, and the Kenyan Red Cross have put officially that 71 people were missing. Do you have any idea what effect this is going to have on Kenya in general?
Well, I think we are still recovering from the shock of that attack. Although some people might argue that we are somehow used to such kind of attacks, because since we sent our troops to Somalia in 2011, I think we have had a total of almost 80 attacks, but they haven't been that large-scale attacks, because they just throw grenades to people worshiping or having a good time in the bar. But we must start by really commending the Red Cross and all the first responders for the work they did on Saturday, and the work that they are still continuing to do. But now coming to your question regarding the people who are still missing and the ones that we have lost, still we don't really know the actual number of people who have died, apart from the numbers or the figures that we have heard from the government officials. Sure. Probably, as sad as it might be, probably have lost any hope of rescuing more people from the mall. So we can really conclude that all the ones who have not been accounted for by this time are dead. So we are talking of like an equal number of people who might have died in the incident.
Yeah, and that's really unfortunate. And Stacey, just like you said earlier, Kenya is known to be a place of peace.
Yeah.
But going off from what Peter said, that at least there's been about 80 attacks. Would you say that the security situation, and whether it's the government or security agencies in Kenya, would you say that they've not been up to task, or they've relaxed a bit? Is it something that, what do you think is going on to allow all these things to be happening?
I really want to, coming from somebody in my generation, I want to say I really commend the government for all the effort that they've been doing. Kenya's government, they're really taking a step forward to do whatever they can do in the country. So going back to saying that the government isn't really doing its, job and something like that, I really want to say it's not that easy to pick out somebody, who's carrying a grenade and walking into a church. A grenade can easily fit into your pocket,
Yeah.
So having to say that the government could have done something to help, it's like saying that the government can, help. It's really hard to say that the government really had a say in what happened.
Yeah.
I do believe that the government really showed its strengths in how fast they did respond when this attack happened, and how much effort the government made to help out the victims and the survivors of the shooting. So I wouldn't want to say Kenya's security is off the grid. It really isn't, because even when everything else has happened, we have tried. People in Kenya do try. When all those attacks that, as Kaka Patrick talked about, as Peter Mwangi talked about, all those attacks that happened, Kenya's government and Kenya's soldiers have tried to help out, knowing that they can do something to help the country and the people of the country.
Yeah, and it's very good that you mentioned, the role of the government. We also have the president and President Uhuru Kenyatta and the opposition leader, how they all teamed up and went to the place and all that. So that's really commendable. But Kaka, I'm going to pose the same question to you. Despite the fact that the security, it's okay, everything is all right, these things are still happening. Is there something you think could be done when you talk about the security situation in Kenya in general? I
think no one can really want to have a security situation infringed everywhere, and acts of terrorism can happen anywhere. In the whole world, anywhere. You remember, I can give you an example even for the September 11 attack. This happened in the US, and it can happen anywhere, any country, regardless of the security situation. But just to reiterate what Stacey said, the security situation in Kenya is good. I believe and I have confidence that the security forces, the intelligence information in Kenya, and all other organs, including the Kenyan population as citizens, they are all up to task, and no one can really allow or help terrorists to do such things in Kenya. And I believe Kenyan forces are among us the best in the region, because even prior to going to Somalia, Kenyan forces was not there because they thought maybe it could be a partisan situation. But as soon as Kenyan forces went to Somalia, that's when the situation in Somalia stabilized, and they helped bring peace. They helped retain or save or take the many states of Somalia, and that's when maybe I can speculate by saying that the situation, that's where maybe the Al-Shabaab started, their reign started beating on them. That's a very valid point. Because if you listen to the reason that Al-Shabaab, the reason they gave, they go about saying that they are doing this in retaliation, in response to the fact that Kenyan forces are in Somalia, and according to them, they are killing Somali people. But when you look at the operations of Al-Shabaab, they've been killing Somalis, and Somalis are not Kenyan forces. So Peter, talking about the strategic role Kenya plays, in that region, what do you think is the way forward? Talking about Kenyan forces in Somalia, is this going to be something that intimidates them, or are they still going to keep up the faith and still do a good job in Somalia?
I don't think so, really. It's not going to have a very negative impact on our country, because if anything, actually this incident has united Kenyans more, and not just Kenyans, because we cannot say that this was an attack that was targeting Kenyans. It involved people from different places around the globe. So it's an international attack. And Kenya has continued or has been playing host to our neighbors from, who come from politically unstable countries. Really, a lot of people from Somalia who are here in the US most of them consider Kenya as their second home. You ask people from South Sudan, they consider Kenya as their first or second home. After this incident, after everything has been said and done, I think since we are suffering from being so kind to our neighbors and generous, I think we cannot really, this thing cannot deter us from continuing being the good host and neighbors that we have been.
Okay.
If anything, judging from what I have seen, the reactions of people from Kenya and from the neighboring countries is going to cement our relationship. So I tend to think we are going to experience a very strong regional integration coming up from this incident. Yeah.
And I mean, that sounds very refreshing. And I just wanted to mention that among we are all students here, and among the people, the victims that lost their lives was a professor from Ghana, Professor Kofi Awono. He's well known, especially when it comes to the circles of African literature. You know, so that's really sad. And then, just kind of related though, but recently UK also came out to say that they think that Ghana, you know, it's also on the list of Al-Shabaab, you know, so which means that it's all over the place. But then talking about Westgate Shopping Mall, Stacey, I'm going to come to you on this. Westgate Shopping Mall, I know it's kind of an upscale. It's usually frequented by tourists and foreigners and people who belong to a certain class in Kenya. Could you tell us a bit about the shopping mall and why, you know, these reasons I've mentioned and why the others that it would easily be such a target for Al-Shabaab?
Okay, the thing about when I think about Al-Shabaab, when they come and do something like this, not just Al-Shabaab, but somebody who will want to come and cause a harm to people, I felt like when they decided to go into Westgate Shopping Mall, they felt like they would actually make a dent in Kenya and make people start thinking twice, you know, trying to make something happen in the population. But what I really want to let them know is that they really did, they shook us, but we didn't, you know, we didn't feel it. We felt it in our hearts, but we're still strong. You know, as a country, we would have decided to do something drastic. And I commend our president for something like this because, you know, if you go to any other countries, you see whatever's going on in any other countries. If it was, I feel like if it was somewhere else, they would have, you know, they would expect you to fight back. But we didn't do that. We concentrate on our people. That's what Kenya did. And that's what makes me hard, you know, makes me really hard to understand why would somebody attack such a peaceful nation. As Peter Mwangi said, we went in trying to help them. And we're not, we wouldn't have gone in if they didn't ask for our help. You know, and going into Westgate Mall, I'm feeling it's an act of cowardice on their part, because why go and attack people who cannot defend themselves?
That's true.
You know, that it makes no sense to me.
It sure does not. I mean, you're talking about innocent, you know, children, you know, women, and you know, people at no provocation at all. Kaka, what do you think is the effect on the economy in general? I mean, I'm not trying to directly link it to the economy, but do you think that what has happened has, you know, the slightest or has the potential to hurt Kenya's economy in a way?
Never. I'll just say never, because Kenya is still the destination. Regardless of things that happens to Kenya, it's still the destination of most people. Most people love Kenya because it has all it takes in Africa, and it's like a hub of activities. It's a place where everyone consider that it's like a leader of some kind in the region, and although the recent action happened, I don't think it has any impact. But and if I recall very, very well, our leaders they were calling to people not to give any travel advisories, because if they give travel advisories, that's when our economy might be hurt from tourism, and that's just one sector of tourism, and it's a major economic booster in Kenya. So and another thing is about businesses, especially in the shopping malls. I think most people, they're just scared that moment, and that's very normal for a human reaction. When something happens in a when something happens in a shopping mall, a big shopping mall, you will think twice before going to any other shopping mall, and that's like that's the ripple effect of the attack. But I think with time, Kenyans are very strong, and they will still continue with their life regardless of anything. And as the president said, you remember, the philosophy of cowards is attacking innocent people who deserve to live, and that's exactly what happened. And Kenyans are courageous more than ever before.
I mean, and talking about the president's speech, I think it was awesome. It was wonderful.
Amazing.
Peter, I'm going to give you the chance to speak to the people of Kenya. You know, right at the aftermath of such an event, if you had the opportunity to be addressing the Kenyan people, your own people, your brothers and sisters, your moms, your dads, what would be your words to them after such an unfortunate event?
Really, what this incident has reminded me is that we are one people. Because remember, before this thing happened or took place in Kenya, we had just come from a very hotly contested presidential debate. And as all the presidential elections do, the world over, they polarize the country. So I would say our country had been somehow very polarized prior to this attack. But judging again from the way people responded to this incident, I tend to think for the first time in like 6 months, people are realizing, we are not as divided as the politics sometimes tend to portray our country. They responded and they owned up this attack, and they said, well, this is an attack on our sovereignty, on our country. So we need to stand for each other, to support each other. So what I would tell Kenyans is, like, we don't need such a thing to happen in Kenya for us to remember that we are one people. Yeah, so we should actually stand for each one of us every single day and really move the country forward. Yeah, because together or united we stand, divided we fall.
That's a very good one. And I must say that the OU community, when you come to Ohio University, we have a decent population of African students. Right? We happen to have, I would say proudly, one of the vibrant African Students Union around, and when this happened, we held a vigil, you know, in memory of those who had lost their lives. Stacy, what would be your words to your brothers and sisters and your friends and your mothers, your fathers back home in Kenya after this event?
I would just like to tell them to stay strong, just as Peter Monkey just said. Just stay strong. If it doesn't kill us, it makes us stronger. And this is what this has done for us, like today. As Kenya, as a country, we have proven to the world that we can stay strong and we can stay together. And I also just wanted to go out and say thank you to all the men and the women who risked their lives going in and trying to stop the Al-Shabaab when they were in the mall. Just want to say thank you to them, and just telling our people to stay strong as a people, and just to remember that united we stand. And that's just one thing we need to remember as a country. Just keep our values, and we'll be good.
Okay. Kakapatro, before you answer, before you give your final word to Kenyans, I know there's you got to look at the positive side of things, and no matter how gloomy this might look, no matter how terrible, of a situation this was, do you see? You already mentioned, and Peter also talked about the political union. Do you also see the same thing? I mean, I saw the president working alongside, the opposition leader. What does this mean to you?
Actually, to me, I know the world might see Kenya as a very charged political environment, but all this as a online guy or a digital guy, it happens in the social media. You go to Kenya, it's a very peaceful country. People will just throw words at each other in the social media, but in the real sense, in the real life, you'll hardly see like a Kenyan saying something bad to a fellow Kenyan because they are together. So politically, they'll just it might have some. We might have some changes politically because the Kenyans know how to judge what they want, and they will get what they want under all means. Yeah.
Okay. And then finally, I'm going to give you the opportunity to say your final words to the people of Kenya.
Kenya, we are one. Kenyans are friendly. I will tell my fellow Kenyans to continue being patriotic. We were really touched. You really know that you love Kenya when you're not in Kenya. Right now, I've been away for close to 3 years, and I really love Kenyans and their culture and everything. I was touched by their gesture, contributing close to $500,000 within 1 day. That is something that left a mark on my heart. And also donating blood. Within 2 days, they've donated like 3,000. I would like to thank them and to continue living the way we've been living. And if you realize something, I did not mention anything about religion. Kenyans don't talk about religion because they consider each other as brothers and sisters.
Well, thank you for that. And finally, this is going to come as a bonus question to each of you, and I'm just going to lay it on the table because we are all in the same shoes. We're going to talk about the issue of safety, as in when you guys were back home in Kenya and when you came to the United States. Your life in Kenya and your life in the United States as students. When you talk about the issue of safety and security, is there a way you could contrast the two? Can you compare the two? Where do you feel more secure?
Well, that's a tough question, but again, we must really realize that we are talking about two different countries here. So people with two totally different, lifestyles and cultural perspectives and everything. So probably and our economic activities again are very different. So some of the incidents that we have experienced, for instance, in Kenya, that might contribute to insecurity emanate from what people do for their own survival. So really, we cannot stop some of these things, or we can only try to educate our fellow Kenyans really to accommodate each other's needs, because some of the needs are really sensitive. But with regard to the terrorism attack that we experienced in Kenya, where I'd say America, the US is really stable. I mean, people have coexisted together for such a long time. But in our situation, in as much as we are kind of trying to craft this regional integration, some of our neighbors are really very unstable politically, and that is what is contributing to this. For instance, the attack that we just experienced last week, in as much as these guys are claiming to be really belonging to one religious faith or the other, we have seen the Muslim leaders coming out in open to condemn it. They have been there donating blood. They have been there, offering any kind of support they could. So I would say, well, it's shaky at the moment, but it can only get better.
And I'm going to come to both of you on the same issue. Like I said, the question is just resting on the table, which means it's got to be tackled. But you said something that I thought was very important. We've intentionally kept the issue of religion out of the discussion because we don't want anybody to think that as other people are claiming, or as the terrorists are claiming, they are doing it in the name of a particular religion, which to us doesn't hold any water. So I'm glad you brought that point out. It's got no association with any religion. But Stacey, it's your turn to answer, the question of how secure you felt when you were in Kenya and how safe you are now that you are in the United States of America.
Honestly, I came here when I was still, pretty young.
How old were you?
I came here when I was 15 years old. And honestly, to be honest, when I was back in Kenya, my grandmother will let me go anywhere and come back at any time, And coming here, my parents are like, no, you have to come back at this time and do this. So I would say my security back in Kenya was really good. From going back in Kenya, as they say, you're raised as a community. The whole community raises you back in Kenya. When they see me out there doing something good, they bring me back to my house. So I would say I was very safe back at home. I was really safe back home, and I still feel safe in America. I want to say, like Peter Mwangi said, that you're comparing two different countries, but I feel as Kenya as a whole, we care too much to see bad things happen to people.
Okay.
And that's why I really felt safe back at home, and I do feel safe here. So it's really hard to try and compare the two.
Yeah.
You know, when we're talking about response,
That's
you know,
true. That's true. I know. Yeah.
it's really hard to separate
Okay.
those two.
Yeah. Kakapatro,
Yep.
tell us about your experience.
Definitely, we are talking about two different contexts. The US, this is a very developed country. They have structures that are very well established. In Kenya, we are a developing country, trying to get our ground, to gain our ground in all sectors, security, economy-wise, and even education and technology. All this, we are still growing, and we are a growing country. But despite all that, I think I was safe when I was in Kenya also. Just the same way I'm here, because if we say that I wasn't safe, then that's where I came from. For more than 20 years, I've been safe. So that means I live in a very, very safe environment. The society, just as my brothers here said, that the society is like your keeper. Yeah.
We got each other's back.
Yeah, we have each other's back, and being a friendly community. I gave an example during the vigil. It's only in Kenya where a stranger is welcomed into the house, given food, given even accommodation to sleep, and then you can talk to a stranger. That is something that you cannot do here in the US. You cannot talk to any person. Somebody might call the police. So Kenya is safe. To me, although we are different structure-wise and development-wise, we are different, but we are safe, both places.
All right. And then, I mean, I just meant to, you know, I was glad when you said that during the video. Yeah, but I also just wanted to throw it out there that Ghana is also very hospitable. All right, thank you so much, guys. You've been watching Global Perspectives. My name is Kingsley Antwi-Boasiako, and I've been your host. And I was in the studio with Kakapatro, Stacey Sharifa, and Peter Mwangi, and they helped us talk about the unfortunate Al-Shabaab shooting incidents at the Westgate shopping mall in Nairobi, Kenya over the weekend. Thank you so much, guys, for coming.
Thank you for having us.